Hello over there. I hope you are doing well. You are welcome to Living a Full Life Forum, a forum where our concern is the health of your soul and your emotional stability. I am Dr. Violet Kayom, your host. Yes, so today we are proceeding with our topic on overcoming control and manipulation. And like we saw in the previous episode, control and manipulation is a form of emotional abuse. Emotional abuses are very detrimental to our health, both the emotional health, physical health, and all that. And we saw that there are short-term and long-term effects of emotional abuse. And some of these include shame, feelings of shame, guilt, and then even to long-term effects like depression, anxiety, and physical ailments like digestive problems, high blood pressure, and all that. So we do not want to stay in a situation where we are being controlled and manipulated. We need to reach a point where we are able to rise out of that. Okay. Now, for the sake of today's presentation, we need to know that control and manipulation is a whole spectrum, that there are many outliers where it goes into all kind of behavioral abnormalities, including people who have narcissistic tendencies and who are really physically violent and all that. So for today's discussion, we may not spend too much time on those abnormal traits, but we will look at these subtle our control and manipulative tendencies that we have in our day-to-day life, which may actually go unnoticed. Of course, if you're in a relationship where there's a lot of control to the point of someone being physically violent and is narcissistic, so you don't want to stay there. So you'd want to really look for help. But one thing I want to caution us is that we are not always going to be running away from people who are controlling and manipulative. You see, we don't have to run away from each and every battle we are faced with. Some of these people are our close associates. They are close family members. They may be fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers. Some of them are really workmates, in your good job. And some of them are spouses, and all kinds of friends. Who may actually have very good intentions. They may be well-meaning. However, because they have not been helped or they haven't come out of their emotional instability, then they throw at us all these manipulative and controlling tendencies. So let's be on the watch out that we don't have to always run away from these people. They are the hurting people, and it's hurting people who hurt others. Sometimes by you coming out of their group, you're actually going to help them. So I know there are many, presentations there and talks there of how you must not stand someone who manipulates or controls, and all that. But you need to weigh out. You need to weigh out which battle to fight and which one not to. So we cannot always be, running away from each and every battle. There are those that you can run for, that you should run for, but there are those that you can, stick in there, and then you'll be the stepping stone for this person to come out of, that pit of their manipulative and controlling tendencies. Okay, so in the last presentation, we looked at the first key in coming out of this situation, and that is by identifying that it is actually happening, because we need to know whether we are actually being controlled or manipulated. Like we said before, sometimes the tendency is so subtle that you may not even know, and you've been in it, maybe at family level or a close friend relation. You've been in it, and it has been this long ongoing abuse that is very slow and difficult to tell. And so you grow into it and you don't actually realize that you have been captured by this manipulator or controller. Yes, so we looked at how to identify that. And so you can always look back, on that episode to see, what we discussed. So today we go to something else, the second part, the second, way by which we can come out, out of the controlling and manipulative tendencies. And that is how to look into the other world. We need to look into the other world, to look into the world of the manipulator and controller, so that we are able to gain some intelligence on why this is happening and how we can come out of it. You see, it is always said in security that the strength of an army is determined by the strength of its intelligence. It is when an army knows what the enemy is doing, their strong points, their weak points, and their strategies for battle. It's when an army knows that they are able to overpower their enemy easily. So we cannot remain in our own world without having a glimpse of the world of the people who manipulate and control us. We need to have that so that you're able to know, actually your own strength, and you realize that these are not superhuman beings. You see, sometimes that there's a tendency of controlling and manipulating people to be very intimidating, and they seem very strong and, so out there. They're like the giants. And sometimes you may feel very scared to actually confront the situation. But if you know what they're going through, then you will have more confidence to control the situation and realize that this is a normal human being who just has issues that have to be sorted out. And so they're not going to make your life miserable. Okay? So one thing that you have to know is that any controlling and manipulative person will not just allow you to have your way to get out of their grip. So you have to be mindful of that, okay? So doing your research on what could have happened in this person's life to make them like this will give you a firm ground to stand on as you put up a fight, okay? So what are some of the experiences that seem to run across people, who manipulate a lot and control? So studies have shown that many people who end up with these tendencies have actually had serious traumatic childhood experiences, okay? Yeah, so some of them have been sexually abused. Some of them have been violated by people who are supposed to protect them. And sometimes it's actually the people like the parents or other guardians who are supposed to protect them who violate them. And so because at that point they don't seem to have control, and this person who was supposed to protect them is now violating them, so they fall off balance. And so as they're coming out and they're gaining more independence as they grow up, they just want to be in control of many things to avoid whatever happened. I remember I had a friend of mine who always said that, well, for she would always, whatever she wants, she will always get it. And she was very manipulative and controlling. And indeed, she had her way through many things. But when we looked into her life, she shared how her own uncle sexually abused her repeatedly while in high school and into, higher institution. So the uncle who was supposed to pay school fees for her and take care of her was now on this side violating her to this point. And so it made her put up this aggression, and then it ended up into this manipulative and controlling, situations. So look into the life of the person around you who seems to have those tendencies. You may find that they've actually had major traumatic experiences that they were not helped out of. Other people grew up in families where the parents, maybe the mother, father, or both, just are controlling and manipulative. So they learn that, while they're growing up, and so they think that is how the world should be. And most times in these families find that one of the key things is anxiety. They just have high levels of anxiety. So they fear so much that they want everything to be under control, and they end up controlling other people. The other thing is that while we are bringing up children, we have to be mindful how we control or we help them manage their tantrums. There are these temper tantrums that keep coming up in children, and if not well managed, they can actually, spill over into their adult life. So we've had situations where a child will wake up and throw themselves on the ground and roll. I remember my son, who would go to the supermarket and he would just roll on the ground because he wants a particular item. And I learned to teach him that, you will not get your way like that. So there's a time he was rolling and crying and making all this scene, and we walked away from the supermarket out of the door, and when he peeped and saw that we were going, he ran following us. And then I told him clearly that, you know what, because you did this, I'm not going to buy you that. And next time you do it, that I'll completely remove it out of the list. I will never buy you that gift. And so that was a way of trying to bring them up, to style. So we have to know how to manage our children's tantrums, because when we don't, then they'll grow into these adults who will start throwing their tantrums around. They do not know how to express their emotions, to express their feelings, and so they will just try to manipulate people by being silent, giving silent treatment, or refusing to eat food for days and weeks and months just to try and get their way out. Our children need to know how to communicate. I remember someone sharing, he seemed to share from this elated mode that, for me, my anger is really bad. I remember when I was young, I got angry with my mother and I decided not to eat food and not to talk for weeks. And it really hurt my mother to the point that she cried and actually wanted to pack and leave and go back to her home, to their home. Oh, like, goodness me, what kind of manipulation is that? And what kind of mother is that who would just allow your child? How do you allow your child to treat you like that and you accept it? Okay, so it is us to put the stop, and it's no wonder that this person has ended up into someone who is very controlling and manipulative. So we need to learn as parents that it is our responsibility to train our children and not to allow the world to train and not to allow life to train. Life is a ruthless teacher. If you hand over your child unrefined into the hands of life, just know that life will teach them in a very bad way and they will lose out on so many relations. Yes, so control of temper tantrums in children is very important, because when we don't do it, then these are children who will end up being very controlling and manipulative. And then just know that the controller or manipulator in your life has a lot of insecurity and anxiety. They generally have this baseline insecurity within them. And so they do not know how to gather themselves together. And so they just want that everything should be within their grip so that, they don't fall out. They're so anxious about how things may go wrong. But you see, that is not how life should be. We don't have to be in control of everything in life, and we cannot be. Sometimes you have to leave life to chance, and you allow people to also learn the hard way. You're not always going to be controlling people and telling them what to do and all this and that. If they can't listen, allow them to be, and we don't have to put all our weight on people just to make them be what we want them to be, because we are all different. And remember that just because you have an opinion, it doesn't mean that all the other opinions are wrong, because that is the misconception with people who control a lot and manipulate. They think it is right, and when it is right, it is their opinion which is right, and any other opinion is wrong. That is not good. There is always a spectrum of opinions, and it's not only your opinion that is going to always be right. Yes, so just have a look into the life of your controller and manipulator and try to find out what exactly puts them into this situation. That is going to set you up, for a good fight, because then you know that you're not dealing with a superhero here, but you're dealing with an ordinary man or woman who is hurting and just needs help. And so you'll be able to come out of this. Okay, so our next part of our presentation, we are going to look at now the practical ways, how to get out of that grip. Okay, and we'll cover some 4 to 5 points as regards that. The first that you have to do when you are now coming out of this manipulation and control, you've identified, you've known the weaknesses or whatever it is that could have brought up this manipulation or control. Sometimes you may not even actually know, but at least you have an idea about some of the things that would lead someone to control and manipulate you. The first thing now you have to do is to gather all the emotional courage, the emotional energy you have to come out of this grip. Okay, so your mind has to be set to come out. You see, when you look at slave masters, there is no slave master who will never willingly let go of their captives unless they've had some divine intervention, a divine visitation that has transformed their hearts, and now they're letting go of the slave. But every slave master, no matter what, will try to keep the slave within their grip. And if they dare come out of their grip, there will be a serious fight. Okay, it's just like colonization. A nation that is benefiting from the colonization will not want to let go of the other nation they are colonizing. And so they will try all means to keep them within that grip. So you have to be mindful that, there is going to be a serious battle just before your release. The intensity of the battle and the pain and whatever it is that has gripped you is going to heighten, it's going to reach the roof. Okay, but that one you should know beforehand so that you know how to deal with it, you know how to contain. That must not cause you to retreat. This is the battle where when you step in, you don't retreat and you don't surrender. You have to win this battle. Okay, so your manipulator has reasons why they'll put up a fight against that. The first thing is they know that by them being, in control, by you being in their grip, it does a lot for them. They feel good, it boosts their ego, they may be benefiting in some ways. Okay, so that is why they will not want to just let you go. The second is they foresee that when you go, it's going to expose their insecurities, those fears and anxieties they have in their hearts that they haven't, aired out. So they won't just allow you to go, okay, just like that. Okay, and then the third is they've been used to you, who is, the submissive one and bowing down. So they are not used to the new you who is trying to be assertive. So naturally, if someone suddenly changes into something, they were not, anyone would be taken back and wonder what is going on. So that is what is going on in the mind of the person who is controlling and manipulating. They're not used to the new you. And so they will not just take it in a positive way. But you have to make up your mind that it's time for me to move out. Because remember that you're moving out of their grip is helping you, but also it is helping them. Because many times they are actually despising you. One thing you should know that the controllers and manipulators, in their subconscious, they actually despise you and they only wish that you'd put up a fight, you'd stand up for yourself and not just allow them, to trot over you. So that is one thing that you need to know. So when the battle is on, it is no retreat, it is no surrender. So mount up all the courage, mount up the strength. You know that there's going to be a lot of backlash on you. There's going to be all the frightening and intimidating, words or situations that would make you want to run, to run back into their grip. But you're not going to allow that, okay? So the second is, in overcoming control and manipulation, you have to focus on yourself, okay? Always remember that you can never change a human being. Learn that early. Some ladies or gentlemen, when they're dating, they're like, well, she's not that good, but I'll change her or I'll change him. You can never change a human being. Well, you can influence them to some degree, but don't put your head there that you are going to change someone. You have control over yourself and you're responsible for yourself. So focus on yourself, okay? And allow the other person time. If, nature has it that way, they may change, but don't guarantee it. So your health, your life is more important in this point. So focus on yourself. Many times when you've been manipulated for a long time, you may actually lose your identity. So this is the time for you to touch base with yourself and know who exactly you are again. If the manipulation has been going on for a short time, maybe the effects may not be that much. But if it has been going on for a long time, then you know that you may not actually know what you like and what you don't like. You may not know who you are. You may get a bit confused being on your own, not getting the other person's opinion to guide you on. Okay, so I listened to a lady who was sharing how she experienced manipulation for over 20 years. The husband by then was really manipulative and controlling, and by the time she was undergoing therapy and trying to come out of it, she actually did not know what she liked and what she did not like. She did not know the restaurant to go to. She always trusted her husband to guide her in everything. She didn't know the friends to hang out with. She had lost all that over the 20 years. Okay, so when you're in such a situation, you have to now get back to yourself and start knowing who exactly you are and come out of those things that have been imposed on you. The thing that you should act like this, you should dress like this, you should hang out with these people, you should do or speak like this and all that. You need to have time with yourself and come out of that and now do the things that are you, uniquely you. Okay, and some things that help as regards this is when you have personal meetings, get a book and write down what you like or write down what you don't like. The places you like, the places you don't like, the people you like, the people you don't like hanging out with. What you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. Try to draw all these from yourself so that you are able to know. Because at the time when you're facing, because you have to confront eventually, the person controlling and manipulating you. So at this time, you should be well aware of who you are, so that you are not just, being swayed this way and the other way, and you're falling into the traps again of your manipulator. So focus on yourself, have time with yourself, have time to heal, pray, take time to pray, and, come out of all the emotional pain, okay? So that is the second point, focusing on yourself, okay? Now, our third is you're going to have to now draw clear boundaries. In manipulation and control, usually your boundaries have been grossly violated. People have come into your life and out and done whatever they want within your space. Now, this is the time for you to draw clear boundaries so that people are able to know what they can do to you and what they cannot. And you're going to have to confront. You're going to have to confront the situation. It may be a physical confrontation. It may be, confrontation using, words, or it may be at the mind level that, you put out your boundary there and you don't violate it, and somehow the person you may not speak much, but they realize that you're not actually being pushed anymore, okay? So for instance, you may say, I don't want, if you've always been pushed to eat, certain food or to live in whatever way, you now say that I don't want to eat this and I'm not going to eat it, okay? Because I don't want to eat this at this particular time. And so you make it clear and you don't bow, okay? This time you are learning to say no, okay? And you have to learn that you don't have to agree with what you don't agree with. And you don't have to do what you don't want to do. This is a serious one for me. Because there's a time I was contemplating, should I go, shouldn't I go? Should I go and visit the person, shouldn't I? Inside me, I just didn't want to go. But there was this thing that, what will they say? What will happen? And then I just had the voice that, you don't have to do what you don't want to do. Okay, so no one should force you, out of the way to do what you don't want to do. Of course, we're not talking about selfishness, but we are talking about something about your own emotional state. Okay, so it's not like we are going to now be selfish and live in our own world and do nothing for anyone. No, we are just setting clean boundaries so that when we are doing something, we are doing it out of a heart of peace and love and not just being coerced. Okay, so at workplace, there may be this controlling workmate and all that. So who wants to micromanage you? So you have to put up, you're like, you know what, I'm not going to agree with you doing this. Okay, and if you do it, there must be repercussions. You can say, I'll either report or I'm going to close you out of my life or of my office. I remember one time when I threw out one there that, if you continue talking about my parents that way, I'm going to call a family meeting. If I have an issue, talk about me, do not bring in my parents. So you have to be firm. It can be very scary at the beginning, especially if you have bowed so low over a long time, to this grip of manipulation. However, with time, they'll know what you're up to, okay? There was a lady who just had to tell off her mother, who was always insisting on her weight, lose weight, or if not, you're going to lose your marriage. She just had to tell her that, you know what, if you continue pushing me this, I'm going to stop coming to visit you. And if you continue sending me these emails, with all these nutritional products and all that, I'm going to block you out. I'm going to block your email out. So that was a serious one. And of course, the mother learned with time, okay? Yes. So draw clear boundaries. You may have to confront, okay? And stick to those boundaries. If you tell someone that, don't call me beyond 10 p.m., make sure you stand by that. And the moment they call beyond 10 p.m., don't pick the phone. Okay, because when you pick the phone and start quarreling, then you violated your own boundary. And if the next day they ask you, why didn't you pick my phone? You say, but I told you not to call me beyond 10. So setting boundaries is very important because you need to have space for yourself. People should respect that. They should not just think they can walk in and out of your life, at will, at pleasure without, the concern for your own emotional state, okay? The fourth is what we call love detachment. This is really making sure that you have compassion for someone, but you don't allow the problems in their life to affect you emotionally. It's like all of us are responsible for our own emotional well-being. And maybe that is why you're part of this group here and you're listening to this, because you want to become better. So everyone should be responsible. You're not supposed to drown in people's emotions. There are some people who have negative emotions and they're just doing nothing about it. They have problems and you try to help them out of their problems, but they're not willing. So you have to learn to have compassion for them. Like we said, most people who have controlling tendencies already have, painful, childhoods and all that. So you have that compassion, but you don't draw in your emotions, okay? So you are loving them, but you detach your emotions. Now that one is going to help you a lot to stop being codependent on someone. Because sometimes with manipulation and control, you end up depending on this person so much because they seem to have, marred your world, and so you're not sure of yourself. And so you rely on them, for choices and all that, because you no longer trust your own choices. This is the time that you're going to really make up your mind to detach so that you can be able to trust your own choices. And then also when they are wallowing in their problems and all that, yes, you do the support that you can, but you don't get drowned into their problems and their emotions. That will guard your heart very much, okay? Yes, and then the fifth thing is you must avoid power struggle. Please do avoid power struggle as you're coming out of control and manipulation. You know that the other person is already like a charged lion. It's like an animal that has been wounded, and so they are charged, they are all out there, so they are going to spew out all kinds of toxic words against you. They are going to try to out-reason whatever it is that you're putting up, and they will give you all kinds of words and say, how you've turned into the worst person and you're becoming worse each day. And they'll bring up all threats and all that. You can never argue with someone who is a controller and manipulator and win. That one, just know it. So don't even bother about it. Just remain calm. Make sure you have resolved in your heart that I am not going to tolerate some of these behaviors, but remain calm about it. Don't even argue much. Sometimes I find silence may actually do a lot, okay? You're silent, but you go on doing what you want to do. The person may shout all they want to shout, okay? And you just look at them and they finish shouting, and you go on and do what is right and what you should be doing, what you feel, you should be doing. Of course, you are at this point mature enough not to end up into selfish things. You're not trying to pay back, okay? In emotional healing, payback doesn't help at all, okay? You're just trying to set a stable ground so that you can remain firm, and then possibly provide a support for this person if they are willing, to be able to turn around, okay? So make sure you don't argue, keep to your side, and sometimes silence may speak a lot, but do the things that you have set your heart to do amidst all the noises they're throwing at you, okay? Yes, so those are some of the few points that we've looked at today. So remember, your intelligence in the world of your manipulator and controller is very important. So know what happened in their lives if you can. If you can't, of course, just know that something wrong happened, and that is why they're like this. And then go ahead to make sure that you draw all your emotional courage, have your clear boundaries set and don't violate them. Do the love detachment, okay? Focus on yourself a lot and don't do any power struggle with this person. Thank you so much for paying attention, and I hope you've learned something. Please leave us a comment, like us, subscribe, and inform your friends. So that next we are going to also get the final part of overcoming control and manipulation, and I believe you will like it. I love you. Have a nice time, and God bless you.